everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being recorded on 5/21/25. We are here with Solreta Antaria today. This is going to be a very special episode today. It's rare we have a guest of this caliber on. But before we go into any of the specifics, I now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna, go in the law of one.
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda, so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent or mischievous beings to be swept away right now, so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say, so be it.
So be it. All right, now bring up the document here.
Yeah.
All right, Joanna, you can go ahead and read this.
So just a little bit about our guest. Solreta Antaria is an internationally renowned clairvoyant, ET UFO experiencer, and psychic tarot reader. With over 25 years of experience in natural medicine and an advanced diploma in health sciences, Solreta combines psychic readings, kinesiology, and quantum techniques to help her clients align with their highest soul path. Having appeared on television in Japan, Mexico, and Australia, Solreta is known for her ability to connect deeply with multidimensional realities, often capturing her experiences on camera. Through her work, she helps others unlock their potential, guiding them towards powerful soul missions and personal evolution. Passionate about her superfoods, plant-based living, biohacking, and neuroplasticity, Solreta brings a holistic approach to everything she does, empowering her clients to quantum jump into the best versions of themselves. She is also an author, teacher, and popular YouTube channel host based in Melbourne, Australia, working with clients around the globe. Solreta is also the creator of Soul Alchemy Potions, a line of 6 manifestation-focused alchemical herbal teas. Born from a deep desire to inspire and uplift, Soul Alchemy Potions helps beautiful souls consciously elevate their lives, embrace their true magic, and work with powerful intention, alchemy, and manifestation. For those seeking deeper clarity in love, career, or life purpose, Solreta's intuitive readings offer not just answers, but transformational guidance, unlocking the codes within your energy field to help you manifest the life you truly desire. So we are very, very happy that Solreta has decided to join us tonight. Can't wait to see what happens during this conversation, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Joanna and Chris. It's so lovely to be here, and thank you for that amazing introduction.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself? And especially, I always like to hear about, was this something, a skill that you were born with? Was it something you realized a little bit later in life? How did this come about for you?
Yeah, for me, it was something that I was born with. So going, I guess, to kindergarten and to school, you get that sense that you're just a little bit different. I'm sure a lot of the audience that's watching will resonate with that. You just know that something, you kind of don't fit into the normal sense of reality. And I think we understand, or we see this a little bit more as we get older. So I would have information or intuition come through from my guides. I was clairvoyant from the beginning. So always seeing auras. So I've taught courses on how to see auras, which is one of my passions. And we were talking about auras backstage as well, because you two have beautiful auras. So this was something that my guides were saying, not to talk about. I remember going in to kindergarten one time, and my guides just basically saying, don't talk about this kind of stuff because you'll get locked up in a crazy home. I didn't understand what that meant when I was about 4 or 5 years old, but I just knew that it was something a little bit taboo, not to be talked about. And it was maybe towards the end of high school that I started to talk about auras. And I remember being at a couple of parties, and it was, my friends are like, oh, tell me like what color mine is. It became sort of like a party trick. And it was through, I guess, always seeing things that I found as I got older and I read different books on the topic and I studied natural medicine, and my amazing teacher would always encourage me to see, or to talk about the things that I would see, or if there's, beings or ascended masters or ETs in the room, she would ask me to talk to her about it. And just this beautiful soul mama that I had, very blessed to have had that encouragement from her. So for me, there was sort of a natural evolution of always having my own translation, because I see color as language. So clairvoyantly, you're also tying that sense into feelings, or for me, I call it like a synesthesia or blending of senses, because just as we have the physical human senses of taste, sight, smell, touch, and I might be missing one. It's still early here in Melbourne. But yeah, we have those psychic extensions of that. And so that's where I sort of geek out into the more natural medicine or the esoteric side. I look at the spirituality tied into the sacred geometry of the body, and how these beautiful lights anchor into our acupuncture points, and how we can actually upgrade the psychic senses. So in my course, How to See Auras, which is over with the girls on Mason Jupiter, I teach different things, techniques for helping to drop some of the old wounds that we have with past lives. Maybe, we've been through lifetimes where we've been burned at the stake, or, other witch trials and things that maybe caused us to shut down, or to, for our own survival mechanism, to sort of switch things off. So I'm all about reactivating our senses, and just really trying to help people to jump into that quantum leap that I know that they can have, and for everyone just to live their best life and to be happy.
That's wonderful. And one other quick question is, tell me about the family that's around you, because Chris was lucky enough to have a mother who is like this and grandmother, who was like this. So this was accepted within the family. How is it growing up with your family?
Yeah, so I have a beautiful family. They're definitely more into the 3D. And I remember growing up as a child with dyslexia, and my parents being so supportive, trying to, help me with that and tutoring, which my brain would just switch off because I wasn't interested. It was more kind of, uh, I'm just thinking back. So with my mum, it was probably when I was 35 that she actually started to remember that she saw auras when she was younger, but she'd shut it down. So she's the twin. And yeah, I just remember being told in late high school, you have to get a real job. You can't, do tarot or, work as a psychic, go get a real job. So I thought, well, I'll study natural medicine. That's a real job. So, and it was just the most incredible meeting of like-minded souls, and just coming together was just, it was amazing getting to sit in an actual physical classroom with just beautiful people that were on the same path, and amazing teachers that just saw that I was a little bit different in the way that I saw the world. So from family, they definitely love and accept me. I'm the rainbow sheep in the family. And my sisters were saying not too long ago, they were just saying something about, you're so different. You just have like this way about you. So like whenever the nieces or nephews, if they ever, fall over or get hurt, things like that, usually I'm the aunt that they come to, because they know they're going to get cuddled and just, I guess, held in a different way. So yeah, I definitely feel different from the rest of the family. I've got children myself too. So I can see, especially one of my girls, she's got like 5 things in Scorpio. She definitely has beautiful, amazing intuition and gifts. But I think it's starting to more unlocked because you find that your kids kind of rebel against, whatever it is that you're into. Not that I've pushed it upon them or anything, but, they've grown up with me doing sessions online for, I think it's over 10 years now I've worked online and in person before that. So for them, it's kind of normal, but yeah, just from a normal family, essentially.
Hmm. Yeah, with mine, yeah, it was like that too, at least with my mother. Anyway, my father was rather standoffish of that, but I made the mistake in school of not keeping my mouth shut. That was my major. When I was telling people things, and yeah, oh yeah, I got the full bore from ridicule to yeah, being laughed at to all that stuff. But after that, and then my mother basically knew that I'd seen my grandfather after he passed away, and she basically said, "No, it's too early. Don't scare him like this." It was like literally the same year he passed, so it was when I saw him. So then eventually later on down the road, he came to me. I had a near-death experience that propelled mine further, though. When I got hurt back in 2009, got hit by a car, was dead for at least an hour, and woke up with the sheet over me the whole bit, and then recovered for about a month and noticed that my already, channeling abilities went into hyperdrive. After that, came back with a bunch of information from guides over, and it was like a big forest clearing. And they basically, I was there for 2 weeks with them in their time, and or the equivalent thereof, and came back. It was only an hour, and came back with a little bit more information. Came back with a little bit of abilities that had been suppressed. Some of them had been back and suppressed from some of my SSP time as well. So I came back with enough to do trench working. So and built it from there. So it's it's very similar. Yours and mine is very similar, but you were in more of a nurturing school environment. Mine was the anti-nurturing, but in the school environment, but
But the
similar.
strong family.
But the strong family
Strong
background,
family
yeah,
environment.
yeah. Mm.
Wow, that's incredible. And what an amazing thing. I've got a couple of friends that have had it's interesting how it's called near death when it is essentially, death. And it's interesting how more parts of you tend to come back. It's almost like it opens up space.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What ended up happening is as you come back, not necessarily just come back with information, something that was suppressed or information that was being withheld from you actually comes to the forefront. Unfortunately, you lose something for a short time too. I was better at computers than I am now. It's like it took some of the technical knowledge and pushed it aside and brought in more of the other so that my brain rewired in that area. I'm only just now starting to get the other back after many years. So at first I was like, what the hell happened? But the other part took over. When the other one was debilitated, since I hit my head, the other part took over as the main thing. The intuitive portion took over. So after a while, and then eventually I healed the other and brought the other back. But it just took some time. It was with toning, things of that nature. I brought it back and brought back enough to be able to do all of this with the shows and edit and all of that. But have you had any similar experiences, or where there was like maybe a near death or some kind of traumatic experience that maybe even brought out more abilities? Have you had that?
Um, I would say going through birthing children is sometimes a little bit traumatic, but no, I didn't notice an upgrade or things with that. It's more being, I guess, the more that I trust into myself. And, that's also with some of my gorgeous students too. It's like the more that you can actually disconnect from that subconscious tape that's playing in the mind, that says maybe we're not enough, maybe we can't do this, maybe that's too hard. For me, it's all about deleting those old programs. And so it's allowing us to really come forward into this fulfillment of this beautiful gift that we all have. So for some of my kids that I worked with as a kinesiologist as well, I got to work with kids that were essentially like ourselves and to encourage and just to be that little guiding force to, talk about their superpowers or if they had, learning disabilities, things like that, like myself really talking about that it's, there's other things that we can do.
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. I was like that. I was considered to have learning disabilities as well. And back then, it wasn't quite as switched out as it was now. Even though I was born into this, it apparently took the near death jump to bring it up to what I have at the moment. There were upgrades, not like you said, not everybody gets that, but it was disorienting at first having everything on hyperdrive or warp drive, but I had to get used to that after a while. And even now, I have to operate on that extremely potent level. And it took me a while to find to dial it back too, to be able to reach in and find that. It got buried along the way, so it took a lot. I did notice you say that you work on, I believe it was like your potions. Can you go into that a little bit too?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm drinking one of my potions right now, and I've got 6 potions. So, and it's funny, I've only discovered recently that this is in my astrology chart to create things like this. So, going through heartbreak quite a few years ago, and I made a potion that I was drinking in the bath, crying, meditating, flowers, oils, the whole bunch, doing a bit of self-love, self-care, and I created this one, which is called Heal a Broken Heart, and it's got things like rose hip, rose petals, cacao, things that are really soothing and nourishing to the heart and soul. So it's a potion company that's created around affirmations and around manifestation. So this is probably one of my favorites, called I Am That Witch. And it's got things like Australian lemon myrtle, it's got dragon fruit, peach, apple, just different things that are about empowerment. So there's an alchemy to them. We've got cleansing vibes and abundance, which is probably one of the most popular. And I Am That Witch. So empowerment and abundance, I think, is where we're really heading. Things like Vision Quest, which is a beautiful blue potion. So the color of it has a little alchemy secret that if you put a couple of drops of just lemon, it'll turn into a wild indigo color. So I tried to make it fun and sort of close to alchemy. And one of my favorites, Love Potion,
Hmm.
which is just a beautiful, warming, almost kind of like a chai type experience. So really nice if you mix it with hot chocolate. There's something about chocolate and Love Potion. It just feels like a beautiful synergy and alchemy together. So we have a community set up around this too. So once a month we do new moon gatherings online, and we have Zoom set up from all over the world, and people tune in, and we work with some kinesiology, we work with some mindset shifting, manifestation, and we'll always have a meditation or a process that we work through, usually quite a few. I try to jam pack about an hour and a half, 2 hours each month to get the most for people, to whether it's to have deeper self-reflection or to, quantum jump that little bit further forward each month.
Hmm. That's interesting. You put all the energy into your potions. When I do liquids, I usually have them around my orgone pieces. I make these high potent orgone pieces, and I put a silver coin in the bottom of each jar when I'm doing them, and it adds like silver essence to it. And have shungite at the bottom as well, and it adds this extra oomph to sage and Palo Santo sprays like that. I've done that myself, and it's actually interesting because I felt when you showed those with each frequency of each one of those, like I Am That Witch, for instance, it just kind of felt like this big witch's apothecary brew, where they're stirring, that's the image that was stuck in my head. I blame Isaac for this one because he's been sticking these weird images in my head the whole time. He does this if one of my guides is actually who directed me to you to do the interview. And he's like, "That's one." I'm like, "Okay." Then like now the whole time he's putting these images to each one of your packets there, like comical, like cartoonish ones. So I thought that was actually pretty funny. I know you do tarot as well. What can you tell us about your sessions?
Yeah, so I work with tarot in a different way. And I just want to say that's so interesting because that's similar to how I get visions too, or I'll get like different images and things or songs, and just you'll get different analogies. I find that they usually try and speak in symbolism or analogy. And that's what I get with the tarot. So um, when I'm picking tarot, what I like to do is spirit will guide me to like what parts of the deck to go to. And I usually pick them face down. And then I use psychometry, so that art of feeling into things. And then spirit will talk about it, feel into it, get the visions. And then they'll say, okay, you can flip them over. And so when we flip them over, it's usually representing the same story or the same topic that they're referring to. You'll see the actual visual in the cards. And that's what I love, is that for our human minds being in the 3D still, we still need that physical confirmation. So that's the way that I work with it. So in a psychic tarot reading session, I usually start with an aura drawing. So I draw what I see around the client, and then we translate the color. We talk about the different parts of the aura that the different colors are sitting in. And the cool thing about that is, having done this for so long and read for thousands of people, is that you start to learn what different colors and things mean in different certain places and situations. But with that, you also sometimes will, like over the last 2 years, I've seen things that I've never, excuse me, that I've never seen before in my life. So you get to see advancements and quantum jumps that that we're having in this age of Aquarius that we're now in.
That's
And so you're saying you're using the term quantum jumps. We say jumping timelines. Do you think that's kind of the same thing as what we're just using slightly different terms, but do you feel
I
it's
believe
the
it's the
same
same.
thing?
Yeah, definitely. And I really look at it from that point of, this is the quantum field that's filled with all of that prana, chi, life force, or even plasma energy. And, when we look at an aura, the aura is existing in that field. And I usually see things come in like right here in the aura or closer when we're working on them, and things that are sort of a little bit further out will be about here. So that would be how, whether it's the quantum timelines or the quantum jumping, you can usually sort of see it starting to shift within the aura first, and then finally in the physical. So when they talk about with manifestation that, it's first you have to create that feeling or that thought, and then it happens in the physical, or then we come into that alignment or timeline. So that's what I love working with the auras. And, we tend to try and pigeonhole ourselves. So I think when I started to jump from working in the natural medicine field into more, my clients are like, can you do a reading for me? I just kept getting it over and over again. I know spirit knocking on my door saying, you need to open up sessions for your readings, because I'd always kept it for friends and family. And, a couple of clients that I got really close to, I would do readings for them. They're like, oh my God, you need to offer this as a service. And so eventually it just took over and became the dominant thing. And that was always my passion.
I was pretty much the same way. I always did things in private. I did paranormal research for quite a long time. I've also gotten a lot of physical evidence myself with both ghost box and photograph. Got Sasquatch photographs, things of that nature. And what ended up happening before I went public, this was quite some time ago. Before I went public, this was just post accident. This was like that was in 2009. This was like 2010, 11. That and guides are telling me, no, you're eventually going to go public with this. You'll find people to get on the radio with and say how you do things and talk about certain things. Even if it's something you just, only are touching on, talk about, what you're seeing, experiencing, feeling, all that. And I did. And then I got on got this one show with a friend of ours. And that led to being on a podcast with a couple of people for a few years. And in between that, I started doing sessions at that time. It wasn't called The Lifting at that time. It was called Watcher Speak at that time. And started doing sessions. Then it eventually, she came along for the advice of her friend for a session. And then that's where this took off from here. There's more of a big illustrious history past life-wise, and other things. But suffice to say, that's how it started here. And from that point, we really went public with the lifting. We transformed Watcher Speak into the lifting at that point. It started out, we were told at one time we caused a great fall, so we had to bring about a great lifting. So there we called the company the Lifting. So that's where that came from. It came from an Atlantean past life set. And what you said about timelines, I look into the multiversal stuff all the time, the
Yeah.
way the different timelines like converge in the way the timelines favor a certain thing. Like Marvel pretty much had it right with the Exodal tree format. They had that completely correct in that where it just shuffled off to different variations of on the same theme. You could have 1,000 different little hairs on the timeline that's just you wearing a different shirt that day and different ones. So it's I've seen those which are really weird. If you mess with it too much, they all turn around and look at you. I've noticed that a whole lot. But I've noticed like you do flow into the correct one or whatever frequency set you happen to be on, whatever that manifestation looks like. That's the timeline you kind of just flow or switch track into. And it took me a while to figure out that I was riding the rapids on that one. I was my logical brain was trying to calculate the timeline variations and the percentages and all this other stuff. And that's where the computing information went from over here into timeline calculations and mean averages and stuff like that. It regurgitated into that ability. And after a while, guides went, no, you don't have to do that exactly. You just have to be on the correct timeline. So to be able to get things correct. And I'm like, okay, I'll just try it that way. And we always, when I see them doing this usually means you're walking the manifestation. You have become that manifestation. You have, and that timeline. So I've noticed that there's something that's called splitting of the densities, where you become so very different in timeline and frequency from other people. They just kind of drift from you after a while. We've had that happen multiple times in a very short period of time since we started the lifting, in fact. So. This I completely get where you're coming from on that, and even in recent times, some things have occurred that we didn't think were going to. So it's just sometimes they're instant jumps, sometimes it gives you signs that it's going that direction. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's where we're at. Did I know I said in private that maybe you could do a tarot reading on here as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any particular subject or question that you want to look into for the audience?
Well, what I really briefly before I was really, talking, we'll be at the 2025 disclosure conference, talking about the unity, talking about wanting to get this blooming and people getting along. So I don't know if there's any, I don't know if that's too broad of a question to ask about, how our involvement in this movement and how it's going to work in the future. Is that too broad?
Yeah, yeah. So the vision that I see, like even as you talk about that, I just see wings already popping up around you clairvoyantly. So there's something about this being like a divine, and I've got the cards, I haven't picked them yet. And thank you for your question, Joanne. So yeah, there's something about, that earth angel aspect or that choosing to come in as a spiritual being to have an earth experience. So I do feel that it's something lined up with your individual missions and it just seems to flare up the beautiful angel wings that come out. So it's almost like being active for duty or active for mission. Oh, and I just had one card just jump out, and the one that was with it is so we've got the Hermit and the Star to start off with. So sometimes Spirit will just flick them out of the deck or jump them out of the deck. So what's really beautiful is the Hermit to me is that sort of like reluctancy or that feeling of you have all of these beautiful gifts. And I feel like I'm coming more towards you when we're talking about these two particular cards, Joanne. So the Hermit being, it's this beautiful Virgo energy that will sometimes sort of be more sort of like sitting and contemplating or overthinking things. And it's usually other people see them as having these amazing gifts or having this incredible knowledge that comes from outside of books. That's something that your spirit brings through down into the earth realm. And so we see with him, he's got this little octahedron filled with the sun or filled with light. So it's through this inspiration, this energy that you carry, that it's more of an embodiment energy, but it's to not be so hard on yourself. So the analogy Spirit always gives me the vision of around this is, when you're in grade school and you've got the skipping rope swinging on each end and you're having to judge when's the perfect timing to jump in to take action. usually the hermit's like, oh, I don't know if I jump now, like I might get whipped with the rope. Maybe it's not the right timing, and they sort of get in their head until someone comes and they're like, they push them to sort of take that action. So this is really for you, not about overthinking anything. And then we have the star card. So the star card is this beautiful Aquarian energy that's to do with channeling the energy of the stars, bringing it down into the earth realm. And we see these gorgeous celestial crystals which are self-repairing. So if they ever crack or fracture, they have this ability to regenerate. So for me, the star card is the ET that's down here on earth. It's the starseed card. So I would say, like, spirit just keeps leaning towards you with this one. And maybe because it's the question you felt guided to ask. Let me just get some other cards to go with this and we'll feel into them. They're just giving me 4 more cards to expand around this. And I'll feel into them before we flip them over. So they're showing me the color of green, which was the color of the aura we originally saw backstage with you, which was just beautiful heart-centered energy emanating out of your field. And I see this come through with a gold. So yellow would be more about intellect, about education, study, learning, teaching. I'm seeing that come through as a subcolor with gold mixed in or blended. So it's like a yellowy gold, sort of, I guess, similar to the colors on abundance potion. So with this, there's teaching and things that you've got coming forward on a soul mission, but it's to trust your heart a lot more to receive the knowledge. There's something very like clear feeling, kinesthetic that comes through with that. And it's about the space that you hold empathically when you're around the people. It's transmitted through that heart energy. I'll just see what else I see with this. The other thing I'm seeing is I'm seeing a blue lotus open up. And a blue lotus, when we look at it from a herbal point of view, it's what the ancient Egyptians used to activate the DMT in the pineal gland. It was also an aphrodisiac. And it's a beautiful, I'm just getting shown a flower essence. So it's a beautiful flower essence in regards to activating our old lifetimes, our old memories. And there was something you said backstage too, I think, around Atlantis. I feel that this is like they're showing or zeroing in on this essence, activating more of that cellular memory is the words that they're sort of typing out for me. I'll flip these over. And oh, these are really cool cards. You've got Queen of Swords, which is about bringing through the information and knowledge. We've got the Hierophant. So where you might be overthinking things or like doubting, any gifts or abilities, we see here that you've come through with a really high level. So Queen of Swords is to take the mask off, to not play small, to really be this beautiful soul, to deliver the information. And the Hierophant is the high priest that receives information directly from God or from spirit. So you're going through an alchemy transformational process right now with the card of the Aeon. And we see here this little Hebrew symbol, Shin. So Shin represents it's breaking down an old clay pot. And I feel that this is where we're talking, oh my gosh, the blue lotus. It was in the cards. So yeah, I feel that this blue lotus is also helping you to break down any kind of like boundaries or veils that you've got from those other lifetimes, because it's about breaking down the 3D, re-amalgamating or bringing that spirit energy or memory back, and then we're putting it in the kiln to fire to amalgamate and solidify. So what we also see with this too is there's a Medusa energy. So you see here with this etheric kind of overlay, Medusa actually was so beautiful that Aphrodite was jealous of her. So she got transformed into this Pegasus. People still loved and adored her. And then she got transformed into Medusa. So it's all about not taking on other people's, I guess, projections and things. And especially when we've got this beautiful balance of the Virgo energy, because they're sensitive souls too. So with this, it's about throwing off everything, projection wise, whether it's our own thoughts and our own sort of, version of identity that we're holding. And we see here these little babies down the bottom shifting from sort of being more in a 3D to 4D, going into like backflips in the 5D and beyond. So I do feel you're going through a huge transformational process right now. And I feel like it's this blue lotus energy. This is Two of Swords, the card of peace, but it's really about seeing beyond the veil and really seeing who you are on a soul level. And I feel that yeah, it's stepping forward with that confidence, knowing spirit's giving you that push into the jump rope.
Well,
Well,
thank
that
you.
was very
That's
interesting.
I actually would say that that's kind of spot on. I've always thought that I call it my contribution is just this unbelievable knowingness and seeing things and then unbelievably being able to put two and two together to try and bring out information in general to people. So I appreciate that's a bit of an affirmation for me. Thank you.
Oh,
Mhm.
you're so welcome. And your aura is just glowing when you're talking about that too.
Thank
Yeah, and
you.
see, we're going through this transitional period where we're trying to bring more focus on our work here, and she's still she's in nursing, so that's where you're getting a lot of the medical from or that kind of healing from, but also the Aquarian part. I'm actually Aquarius, so that's
Oh,
the
cool.
Aquarian, so born in January, end of January, so. January 25th. Yours, I believe, was Scorpio?
Yeah, I'm in November.
In November, Scorpio, yeah.
Oh,
So,
lovely.
yeah. So also, I did notice on one set of astrology instructions, it said that Aquarians and Scorpios weren't supposed to be together. It was like fire and gasoline or something. And then there was another one that said it was fine. I was like, okay. I just thought that was quite interesting. Like they either complimented each other or they hated each other's guts in the other one. So it was like there were two different like yin and yang there. But I thought that was actually quite
Yeah, and
interesting.
the deck you use, is this something that
Oh,
you use or you created or?
yeah, so I've got one that I've created. That one's actually the Thoth deck, which is an Egyptian-based tarot. And then we've got this one is the Syrian star cards,
Hmm.
which are my deck that are on my website. And I got given from Spirit 44 different words to channel artwork to go with. So a few of them have light language and different things that are on there as well, which are more kind of like an oracle deck or I'm getting a high pitch as we're talking about it. It was Spirit's way of them being able to get the messages through directly. So I'll just pick one for the audience, which is we've got the card of desire and we've got sacred knowledge. Two of them were coming out.
Hmm.
So with this is about, I'll just flip this over so I can read it. Connect with the playful energies of desire, build, hold, and release energy into positive things, which is kind of what we were talking about with the timeline side of things and sacred knowledge. So you can see there's a little bit of light language code on the bottom. And it says sacred knowledge is timeless and exists for everyone. Go within for answers. So yeah, those are just two of the ones that we were getting drawn to, which it sounds like you guys are really into the sacred knowledge side of things as well, looking into past lives and, bringing the information back through into the here and now.
Yeah, so one of the things that if you have, I guess, we talk about a lot of things, but we really are interested in what we feel is our true galactic history. And, so we try to bring a lot of that information because we feel all of it is relevant to us now, that if you can understand what our understanding of how everything developed, how the earth came about, how, who was here before, how it transcended into now, not walking amongst aliens at one point, not walking amongst them now, and bring all of that information. It really explains everything that we're going through right now. And so we believe heavily that you want to feel more empowered. You need, even though that a lot of that history's been hidden up and rewritten, the victors write the history and all that stuff, but we can try to bring through more of the accurate information to give people a great understanding so that people now can know what's going on so that they can co-create what they really want to happen. But so that's kind of a passion of ours to do that.
Yeah, we do the galactic history, and then we do both GIC, which is Galactic Interversal Consortium, and then we do the lifting. We put most of the galactic history stuff on the consortium side, and we're delving into the Greek mythological side. Before that, it was the Scandinavian Norse mythologies and such about ancient Asgard and everything, and how it connected to what we're doing now, and how what people believe are myths are the events of either ancient wars or ancient civilizations, planetary and dimensional. So
Cool.
Once you start opening that door up, it's not necessarily Pandora's box. It's more like it's just this can of worms that opens up.
Sure, you
Yeah.
can't cram all that into short little somethings. It's a lot of history there, so.
Most definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what did you want to, did you have anything to say?
I don't know if you want to go ahead and bring in a channel. And when we do this, this is partly, again, an opportunity for you to ask any type of questions that you have that come to mind as well. So we always love to have, the guests that we have on that may have things that they themselves have questions about, and we would really encourage it. So who's going to be joining us?
Well, since Isaac was the one that located Solreta for us, he's going to be the one to talk. So he tends to point to people that are good energetic matches and good basically just overall good energy and information. So and basically matches for how we do things. So okay, hang on here.
And he likes humor. He likes to raise the frequency with humor. So,
Yeah,
Oh, I love that about guides.
he tends towards towards Beavis and Butthead humor, but let me say, so yeah, Isaac, you have been foaming at the mouth here, so let's see, uh, yes, hello. I know you and I have not met in this existence, but long, long ago, not necessarily in a galaxy far, far away, but we have actually known on a more of an oversoul level. I have a physical avatar here that looks similar in physiology to himself, but has alien genes as well. I'm roughly 7 feet tall, wear a uniform that denotes an archival section of the Galactic Federation, and I'm also from a world known as Lanielos. It is essentially a dimensional space within the nesting doll, or worlds within worlds of Earth. It coexists with Earth, but has an aperture out in another part of the universe, another galaxy. Essentially, you would call it a wormhole, but it's more of an eye. Then they constructed a planet on that end of the aperture. So to say also planets can be openings to dimensional spaces. This is how the nine realms were in the ancient past when Odin created the nine realms in the solar system. Based on the timelines that you were speaking about, it was the micro to the macro, which was the overall Yggdrasil tree. Which are the timelines. As you are bringing about this unity, you are actually not necessarily just growing a new timeline. You are actually, how can I put this to in English verbiage? You are just becoming that path that was already there. The branch was already there. You jumped to that branch, not necessarily with a leap, so to speak, but it's just more of this following the path that led to that arm in a river, let's just say, like a tributary that flows next to the river and then reconnects. You have timeline of the universe you're sitting in has a bunch of timeline sets. Each universe, even a divergent evolution, has timeline sets by which it looks like more like little hairs or little tiny branches on a bigger branch. And then it connects through the world tree or the universal tree to galaxies, stars, and the like in other universes. And the void comes up the middle as the spaces in between. Excuse, there is an interference in the way. There was an bit of interference interfering with that just now because some do not like that we are speaking on these terms. They don't like the fact that all of us have connected this way. They are quite obnoxious. Do you all have questions for me?
do you have any questions?
Yeah, and just I guess it's interesting to have a look into the timeline side of things. And thank you for joining us, Isaac, as well. And yeah, if there's anything that we need to know right now about merging into the higher timeline potential.
Hmm. This is actually quite interesting. I do not view things in more of higher and lower. It's more of like faster, slower, or in a more in your lane type of space. But think of it this way. The way the timelines are favoring, say big political change coming up, for instance, it's how you handle certain things that propel you into particular timelines. Sometimes it's on an individual, and others come with you for the ride. You see that they've come with you into that space, and you are also letting go of those that are not in that space. It's not like necessarily going from old Earth to new Earth. That is the more linear way of looking at this. This is more of an everything everywhere happening all at once type of situation. Whereas as you are adapting to and either coming to terms with something or adapting to a particular situation or even getting into a faster moving frequency, you are automatically gravitating towards time lines at least 1,000 times a second or more. But where you end up is solely dependent on the frequency in which you project and have become. So with that said, the way the timelines are favoring, they're favoring major change within the next several years. I do not like giving predictions on things because this can change based on people's manifestations. Also, if people expect a certain thing to go a certain way, therefore it does. The more people you have aimed at a particular subject, the less time it takes to, say, have disclosure, or there's more time it takes to actually fix things on the planet. So, but what all the mean average is favoring is, especially in the disclosure community and communities like yourselves, all of you, favoring more of a unity in this area. Even if you don't all do things exactly the same, this does not matter because you're forming more of a larger community. It starts with some of the smaller ones, or as they like to say, tighter circle, deeper roots. Then it expands to other areas that might not be a complete match for it, but you agree to disagree on those terms, on certain terms. Then it expands more planetary at that point. He calls it spreading the little fires of information. And at that point, the timelines do then converge, or timeline set rather converge on that particular idea. You call higher timelines would be essentially that, more in favor of a unity and also disclosure of different ET races. This is already occurring. They're living amongst you in your homes and work at your businesses with you every single day. You would never know that you were standing next to an ET the entire time. This is also where the timelines are favoring more of a disclosure timeline. I say this, but it's already been disclosed. It's just more of the realization or the perspective and perceptional change that you are in a much larger universe and multiverse. You have beings that come from other parts of the multiverse as well that you think are alien. Most of the beings that you come across are dimensional. That's roughly about 95% are dimensional. You have 2 to 5% is galactic, but that's 2 to 5% of a galaxy. That is a ton of people. So you are basically on a collision course for not only uniting your North American continent into one central government, but you are on a collision course to meeting those that have been out there waiting for quite some time. The certain contractual agreements will start to not just wither and fade, but change and adapt to have more of an open planetary, kind of an open door policy. But I wouldn't recommend an open door policy in your own life. Like you wouldn't let strangers into your home. You would have a tighter circle, deeper roots. You would have a no consent policy. Two different bad things that are going on. But just know there are certain concepts that you have currently that either are going to be expanded on, or you'll find that you're on a false foundation. One being the consent rule. You'll find all along that things were happening all around you without consent, and that you saying this all on your own wasn't necessarily fixing things, but getting people to understand that certain things were going on without your control or consent begins to shift the tides, such as alien abduction, for instance. These are the things that are going to start to correct, not necessarily correct themselves. By even hearing this broadcast, people will start to have some realizations behind that. I do not want to get too long-winded, but do you have other questions for me?
Oh, Joanne, did you have a question?
Well, I think it's really interesting. My question is from your perspective, because I love hearing what things are going on in other countries, right, when we get a chance. So tell me, how do you feel that Australia and the people in general in Australia are kind of embracing a bigger perspective, of life, of, some of the things, of course, that you're doing, but in general, what is it like there in Australia, in general, for people that are trying to break these glass ceilings as you're trying to do? How's it going?
Hmm. Now this within that community there, it will take a little bit longer for that to be cohesive. You'll start to see it happen more in the United States first, but in Australia, you'll start to see it catch on just slightly slower. But you'll start to see it catch on that much more. You'll start to see more openness, especially after your 2020, 2021 debacle. People will start to actually open up a little more that maybe certain ways of being, certain ways of types of events should not be allowed to happen a second time when rearing their ugly head. I'm saying that Australia, in that respect, will essentially try to pass certain laws and bills first in a slightly less palatable way, but the United States will pass them more of the way that some wish over there, and it'll start to catch on over there. Just like during your 2020 debacle, well, people do not want a taste of that again. So as this energy changes, as these timelines change, if you do not wish any of these things to take place, absolutely do not allow these things to take place on an energetic level. People always wonder how can they change it if they aren't of a warrior mindset or of can fight or anything like that. No, it is not about this. It's about this, you putting that energy into the events just simply not occurring. Are there watershed events or set things that the majority of humanity must see worldwide? Yes, but they also must see and feel the change. What needs to be changed, it needs to be put in their face. Sometimes a few times. I'm not saying it's not going. I'm not saying it's going to end up just like it did in 2020 and 2021. I'm just saying certain things are trying to slip under basically paperclip certain laws together, like they do here in the United States. But they're trying to rush certain things along that probably should be paid closer attention to, if that makes sense.
Yes, that definitely makes sense to over here in Australia. We had, I think, the world's longest lockdown here in Melbourne for a couple of years.
How is it going now, though? Is it opening up a little or?
We're not in lockdown over the last couple of years, but my kids weren't able to physically go to school for 2 years, so
Wow.
it's yeah, it was quite harsh. So I think it was about maybe 2.5, possibly 3 years, something. It's all literally a blur. And what I'm finding is that the kids at school especially, are starting to have where things had been suppressed. And last year, it was like a 2 year suppression was starting to come up to the surface, was what one of the integrative doctors that had seen, quite a few kids from the community was saying, that all of this repression was surfacing. So I think it's a little bit of that Stockholm syndrome to do with the government here. It definitely resonated what you were saying about things taking a bit longer over here and us being a bit further behind. And definitely with laws and things being passed or hidden, kind of paperclipped together with certain things and things changing or trying to be passed in Parliament here, they were trying to sneak through other little laws and changes that would have impacted our whole country and changed our rights over here too.
Mhm. Yes,
Yeah.
Australia, unfortunately, they'll try something there first in more the negative connotation, thinking that it is a weak link. But they won't necessarily do it in the United States too much because they're getting too much pushback. So, there in Australia, they see it as more of a weak link. Therefore, you have to show them that you are not the weak link in this. You see, you have to basically show them that this is unacceptable and reprehensible behavior. I'm not saying picking up a torch and pitchfork or anything like that, but I'm saying energetically do this. Of course, if you had to do it the other way, you had to do it the other way. But I'm just saying, in this instance, because of that lag behind, because of what you witnessed, because of that mental lag that children have. They're hoping that they can basically pull a rabbit out of their hat a number of times now that people have been mentally lagged, you see. And they think they can continue to do it, compiling one negative event on each other. They do this globally. What you call them the deep state, but they're multiple factions and families. But with this, the families warring with each other in different factions under different signets warring with each other. Some will try to do things faster than others. Sometimes other hidden good ones will try to prevent certain things, but create false flags in order to bring about change, even if it is they do something negative in a positive way, if this also makes sense. So you're dealing with both negative factions and positive factions doing negative things. So with that said, I personally feel the behavior is reprehensible across the board, even though a lot of them are under different contracts and different things too. If they were to come forward, they would automatically be seen as an enemy, so they have to skirt a lot of times. You'll know the genuine good ones by they will whisper in your ear, basically, how to change, where to change. You also get ideas from spirit as well, who is completely supporting of change. So I hope this makes sense. I do not wish to give fear, but at the same time, if I give any project names or anything like that, it would only compound the situation. Just like before the 2020 hammer dropped, I warned them there was a project coming down the pipe, and he tried to ask what it was called. Us and the Force people would not tell him, but saying that it would come about in February, March, and that's what happened. For you guys, it's fluctuating. Just know Australia is considered to be a weaker link in this respect. Show them that you are not. That's if any advice I could give, that would be it.
And you know what we try to reiterate here is, again, people think even, they're older, they're just sitting at home, they're not, and I'm like, no, you have energy and intention. And I always am
Reclaim
joking,
space, yes.
if you're watching TV and watching the news, you should be saying no a lot, because they try to get you to agree to things like an upcoming war or whatever, but you should be sending the energies out to absolutely not. And those energies do coalesce and they do affect things. So we always try to help people understand that you're not just a blob sitting somewhere if you think you're doing nothing, and you can affect change. I know that's kind of also what you're alluding to, that don't think you're helpless in this. If you have strong, and it has to be strong, there is no other way except no, in a certain answer or whatever, there is no, that it really does affect change when those energies do coalesce together. And so always encouraging everybody to pull back the curtain to see what's really going on, and then to put strong energies forth into how you want it to be.
Exactly.
That's very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So how are you personally then doing with then your work and your activities? Are there a lot of people coming to you kind of quietly wanting to talk about these things?
Yeah, I'm really lucky in that I tend to attract the clients that have a lot of them have been awake since before, I guess, the mass awakening. And some of them, had ET interactions since they were born, similar to myself. So I tend to help them to, I guess, get confirmation, or for them to know that they're not crazy, that these things, that we do go through, and to help them expand and understand a greater part of themselves and their mission here. So what I love is when all of a sudden spirit will guide certain people, and I'll see things in their aura that I haven't seen before, and it'll come through just like a little trickle or a crack in the veil, and we'll start to get more of I guess, an understanding of where we're going energetically, or what's happening in the spiritual evolution of things, timeline wise. So I'm sort of more seeing where there's a big update, instead of our brain being kind of like a hardware storage device. We're more starting to have that connection come in from our higher self and the oversoul and from spirit. So I think that's probably one of the big things that I've seen over the last 2 years, but it's increasing a little bit more, which is exciting, as well as a few people that have had plasma energy in their auras too, which is really exciting to see something different, energetic, to do with another layer of healing that's being activated. But yeah, over here in Australia, we do have, I guess, the starts of signs come up every sort of 15 minutes where you drive or 20 minutes. There's big black over the freeway or over the road signs that are more, I guess, electronic or digital that say, 15 minutes to the next city. And that's, a little bit concerning on the physical side of things, considering how we were locked down and suppressed. But for myself and my partner and kids, it's not out of the question to move if we need to move too. But yeah, I definitely agree with what you were saying about that strong no energy, and that's what I was like when we had a lot of the rules and things come in and say no to a lot of the face coverings and all of the things. And there were recommendations, I guess, that happened over here, but most people saw it as law.
Yes, it
Yeah.
started to happen in the United States. You'll see the United States roughly do some of these things first. Then you'll see Australia start to do this. England will also be one of the ones that lag behind, same as Canada, but you'll start to actually see Australia. They think it's a weak link, as I said before, but you'll start to see. Don't think of excuse. The energies are making him itch. Something horrible. But do not see it as more of a, how can I put it? Don't see it as more of a great awakening. See it as more of a, you're now entering this timeline where these events are not occurring. Because of the frequency by which you have made basically this demand of this manifestation. You have brought up this thought, therefore it is. You think, I think, therefore I am. But at the same time, yes, it ceases to just be cerebral, and it brings heart space and logic. Actually, it's on this side, but it is intuition and logic. That's more critical thinking. You know when to times when to think things through and when just to go with the flow. Merging these two together and grounding them in your I am presence is the most powerful thing that you could possibly do. And even merging both the warrior sword and more of the energy worker, you would say monkish type side. Merging both these together and knowing when he likes to say knowing when to be Conan the Barbarian and when to be Buddha, he likes to say those things. Since he carries the warrior sword and also the other, knowing when to put the sword down and use more words and negotiative and energetic skills. So you will begin to do more of these particular things over there as these timelines shift and converge. There are convergences of them where some get these little fine hairs get closer together. You call this Mandela effect when these get close together and drop things from either side, like objects, people, things of that nature. You may go from one where somebody you thought had passed, and all of a sudden you're over here and they're alive again. You're seeing this. This is the confusion, which is the multiverse. You see the multiverse of madness, so to speak. I could go on infinitely about this, but I have advised that he not to, because he would go on infinitely about this subject as well. I told him keep that to his shows. Well, this is a show, but anyway. In this also, I wanted to remind you, you were wondering which sense you forgot in the beginning. It was hearing. So,
Ah,
uh, so technically, I was around on both ends of this conversation. You see, I can jump to that end as well. Technically, in the dimensional space that I'm in, I'm a physical flesh and blood being that is literally in a space that, how can I describe it? It is the introverse, what is you would call it a nesting doll, which is a world within a world within a world within a world. And essentially all existing here at once. I can cross through the dimensional portal, but I would still be in that same frequency and be able to go gently to both sides. That is the physics that humans would essentially understand this. Essentially, all these places are coexisting, including your spirit world. Your receptivity, people's receptivity to spirit, has diminished. This is what happened in the Orion's timeline, where they went into a dark place and went AI. But I must state, though, for the record, that if people wish to do transhumanistic stuff, that's their own choice. You must leave it choice. You must always leave choice alone, as long as it's not hurting another group, as long as one's not imposing. So with that said, excuse. the receptivity to spirit world and to spirit. That is what's being diminished. It's not that it goes anywhere. It's your receptivity to be able to see and feel and hear it. This is what people are going through. They think they've lost something. They think it's all gone away, been abandoned. No, this is not the case. It is always around. Even the realm that I am in of Lanulus is technically there. We don't always hear and see things, everything you're saying, but because we have our own world. If you went through the portal, you would see basically a sky, stars, all because technically you'd also be on a different planet and a different realm at the same time. Again, the physics of it say we're right here, but also the physics say we can go over there as well. Bent together, the other is one in one dimensional set and one dimensional nexus. This is called the Bifrost in ancient times. So I hope this answered any questions. If you have any more.
I'm just curious, do you have any words of wisdom that Solreta could benefit from herself or her business, what she's doing, her mission, anything you can see from your perspective?
Thank
From Yes, from your business perspective, you're doing wonderful with the product line and what you are selling. Also, helping children and helping doing your tarot reads, things of this nature. You are actually doing quite well. I don't know if you do any fairs or any places like that or other conferences. I know you had said you were at one recently, but yes, getting more in the public eye. Getting even more than you are, getting more involved in that. Picking up, I told him picking up the pace. I've told him taking care of older business, older projects. If you weren't going to complete them, get rid of them. Whatever carried an energy of another timeline, like objects that you don't need, things you don't need. I always tell them if it's like an old love letter, an old channeling, something like that that doesn't apply to this timeline, old set of shows, which I had him before this, going through this. I would definitely, for yourself, also change out some of your tarot decks because they do get saturated from time to time. Open and closed circles, you know all this part. But I'm saying is more of a public eye, but only put out there though. What is the most? I shouldn't say the most concurrent, but the most relevant of what the energies are calling for, that your oversoul is calling for, either to correct within the self. This will also change the energy of the business, correcting within the self first, and then changing the energy dynamic around you. Therefore, you will draw in the people that need to hear this most. Do not get worn out like he has decided to do on multiple occasions. I will throw him under the bus at this point, but with this, with anything that say if you had any old boyfriends, lovers, anybody of that nature that are not relevant to the now, I would highly suggest anything that reminds you of this particular person or people. I would say part with this. You will see the timelines open up more options to you at this point, if this makes sense.
Yes, thank you for that. That was cool.
Mhm. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, do you have any other questions for Isaac?
Oh, I just want to say what he was saying about the timelines and the nesting and things like that, and the mandala effects with the little fine hairs. That was all really resonating. I was just getting goosebumps when you were talking about the
Hmm.
fine hairs.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to have that effect on people's fine hairs. Let's just put it there.
Yeah.
I mean this in the most non-PG-13 related
Yeah,
way.
I know you do.
But anyway, you will find that my sense of humor tends to go into those corners of places that people do not expect guides to do. So, but in this respect, I will shut up now. I thank you for having me on. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, he tends to go into that corner of humor. He will also, what he will do is if you're uncomfortable with something, he will technically keep hitting you with it until you are desensitized to it. Like if it's a trigger point or something like that, he will keep doing it. He will keep finding that button that knowing full well you have to correct or that. I think it's more of a something that you must fix type of thing. So it may seem like Spirit's throwing this in your face, which Spirit does the same thing, but he will do it more directly, just like somebody just poking you like this. And what he's really doing is getting you to look at whatever it is, so there's no more trigger there. And so he'll make people uncomfortable by saying some creepy things in channel and stuff like that. And some people go, God, what is wrong with this guy? And then when he see that reaction, he will focus on those people to keep goading him and doing that. I've noticed that multiple times with him. He did that to me when he first showed up. And made it so that I was more open about talking and doing things of this nature. The funny story about I don't want to say the origin point of how we met, because I know it was obviously some out there somewhere else. But I will state this because a lot of people don't know this part. I was with my father in Illinois at one point. We were going to a flea market, and I heard him Isaac talk to me from the back of this building. And he says, I'm using a crystal skull in the back of the building. Come find me. I'm like, okay. And went over the only stone vendor in the entire place. And this big orange and white crystal skull sitting there. And he goes, okay, go over to the vendor and basically tell him I don't like him when he puts me in a box. I'm like, okay, fine. I went and did this. It creeped the guy out so much that he actually dropped the price, so I could afford to get it. So it was like, he knew how to basically make it so that I would grab that skull. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That was quite a few years ago. That was in 2000, I want to say 15, but I don't have that skull anymore. It actually got corrupted after a while because he jumped to a different edifice that I made after a while. So he's trusting more non-skull. I always tell people don't utilize skull edifices or skull interfaces anymore, but use like other things that your guides can interface with. I make orgone pieces with little statues in them. I have a knight statue for him. So
Oh, cool.
I just thought that was I thought that was relevant. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything else before we round this episode off today.
Just tell people how they can find you, because I'm sure there will be people interested.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, for bookings and just more information on what I do, and it'll have all the links to YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, social media. Just go to solreta.com, which is SOLRETA, and then Soul Alchemy Potions, which is SOUL, alchemypotions.com.
All right. Well,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Rita. It was great having you on today. This was a wonderful show today, having you on. We'll see if we can have you on here in the not too distant future back again. This was great. So actually, at this point, if nobody has anything to add, I will now close the circle. So I now
I
close this
just want to
circle.
say thank you as well for having me on. It was so sweet of you to ask.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you everybody for watching this episode of The Lifting. Hopefully you enjoyed this very much, so as much as we did. So thank you everybody. Bye-bye now.